Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Leslie Lowe, and today I'll be conducting my presentation on the literature review that I conducted on social media and drug abuse. Before I dive into things, I'd like to first start off by thanking Dr. Rogers for allowing us this opportunity to do this research. This was a great experience for me, considering the fact this was my first time actually doing a literature review of this extent. One thing that I thought was interesting was how we all, as classmates, have collaborated throughout the semester. And for this assignment, I took in all feedback and tried to proportionate everything correctly. I definitely hope that everything that I put inside of my literature review is of cause, and I think that a lot of people would be impacted by the information that I provided. The title of my literature review is "Does Social Media Enhance Drug Abuse?" I specifically wanted to use social information processing theory, which is a theory that is directly attributed to online relationships being developed as opposed to face-to-face. There was a lot of information on the theory. I definitely thought the theory worked well with my paper, considering it focuses on online relationships with social media and so many people integrating with each other nowadays. It's extremely important to be cognizant of how we develop relationships with this platform and individuals on these multitude of websites. A couple of websites that are popular today: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Snapchat is developed its own power as of late, and those are some of the main ones that I would name. Specifically focusing back towards my literature review, I wanted to use social information processing theory, like I said, to elucidate how drug abuse is encouraged through social media in Generation Y and Generation Z, otherwise known as Millennials and Generation Z. I wanted to focus on these two generations simply because I felt it was necessary, given the fact that we all have been around since the inception of social media in 1997. Generation Y being able to be a part of that, with being born in 1982 and being teenagers during the time and period that it was created. In my literature review, I actually focus on a couple of things here with social media and how Generation Y was affected as opposed to Generation Z, how social media has used media marketing, the encouragement of cyberbullying, and also just the encouragement of drug use through Facebook related content or other platform related content, such as Facebook Live videos, statuses being made, and just overall individuals putting their lives out there on Facebook. I felt this was important to tackle as a topic for this literature review, simply because social media is starting to become the number one way we are all entertained. Everybody loves entertainment. Everyone wants to be entertained. Social media does a great job of that with the extreme amount of videos and just the overall development of memes, which are used to bash people in some senses or used to encourage laughter. One thing that I wanted to focus on specifically for this paper is to compare how drug abuse has infiltrated its way into our society on social media relatively at a higher rate as opposed to the early 2000s. I think it was actually a lot of information available to us that was just not scanned during the time period between the early 2000s and late 2010 when I was coming up in high school. I think there was a lot of things that social media took its just this whole idea of how we can make this a bigger thing, and they have used marketing as a way to perpetuate certain ideas and give people and individuals a way to look deeper into what they see as reality. I think Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter are the three main platforms that allow people to share ideas and encourage the use of social media through a multitude of ideas that they create themselves. I know related back to social information processing theory, computer mediated communication is something that is unique, which allows people to communicate through online, which is the number one way a lot of people are actually communicating now. Given the fact you can call people on Facebook, you can video chat people on Instagram now. Everything is evolving to the point where you're allowing yourself to fall into the warp of being more personally drawn into using these platforms to deal with issues and talk to people, as opposed to handling things face to face with individuals in meetings and other various forms of interaction. With my literature review, I felt it was necessary to focus on Generation Z as well as Generation Y. Given the fact I'm a part of Generation Z, I wanted to provide some insight for individuals around my age group that can maybe give them the ability to monitor their usage or see how social media is focused on their daily activities. For example, a study that I conducted previously, a lot of people are using their phones during class, which inhibits their productivity in school, college students specifically. I think a lot of people cannot put down their phone, and for that reason, they're always on Facebook, which allows them to see these statuses, see these videos, and see these things, and then in return, look back down at their phone, look back up, and say to themselves, well, I wish I had that, or maybe I should try this. It's more so of an experimental thing, in my opinion. I definitely think that a lot of people have found their way to use social media to the point where it becomes something that is a part of their daily life, as opposed to just a tool they use randomly for entertainment or just for normal use. One thing that I thought was interesting in me choosing this topic as well was the environment that I grew up in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. There's a lot of impoverished neighborhoods that I was around and near. I realized that in high school, as an adolescent, a lot of people are dealing with mental health issues, which is one of the main reasons I felt this was important to conduct as a literature review. Although these things have become much more of a bigger deal as of late, I think it's extremely important to consider the ability to focus on things we can do, such as programs and other things, and to cause a group of people to have things that they can do to combat this whole idea of coping with drug abuse or being encouraged to use drugs through social media. Social media should be a platform where you can really develop relationships that are with friends and positive impacts in your life. No one wants to be involved in a situation where they have to fight for their life because they're choosing to use social media to cope with an issue when they have people available to them that they can speak to in person who can help them. One thing I felt that was necessary to bring up during this literature review as well is how most of the articles that I researched and read over, they talked a lot about how Facebook is probably the number one platform used that causes these things to happen. I think through media marketing and cyberbullying combined, those two things have created the ability for individuals to cause a lot of trouble and turmoil in the social or cyber world community, if you will, which causes a lot of people to, in return, shift to drugs. I do not agree with the approach Facebook takes in terms of how it markets different products. I think that the marketing of tobacco products specifically enhance the idea of wanting to experiment with drugs, and this in return causes individuals to use drugs, develop a situation where they can't stop using drugs, and then they find themselves using social media, which in return doesn't help you but encourages you to do it even more. I think it was a privilege to conduct this literature review, and I must thank Dr. Rogers again for allowing me to have the opportunity to do this. This was an eye-opening experience. I was able to dive a little deeper into the idea as opposed to me just thinking and taking notes mentally as a high school student transitioning from a undergrad into graduate school now, trying to develop the theories and learn more about how communication is definitely a part of our lives more than we think. So I definitely want to make sure that everything that I put in the literature review I covered in the presentation. A lot of the questions that I had were answered after the research that I conducted, and I really felt as though the articles that I chose were appropriate and elocuted the points that I wanted to focus on during my literature review. And once again, this was a great experience, and I definitely want to see what my other peers have on tap for me. So once again, my name is Leslie Lowe. Thank you for your time, and thank you for watching.